Hey everyone, I'm here today with Alpesh Parmar. Alpesh is an alts community member who has been on a journey that not many people have been on before. And that journey is he has written a book. Alpesh and I met recently, and I was pretty interested in hearing his story. And I thought it would be interesting if he could tell his story to the alts community, what it's like to write a book, what it's like to publish in this day and age, how to bring it to life, how long it takes, what the real challenges are, what was easier than expected, what was tougher, and everything in between. So, yeah, this should be a fun episode. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Alpesh. Alpesh, welcome.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me. And I thoroughly enjoy all your newsletters. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Me too. All right, let's start at the beginning. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to write this book.
Sure. So yes, I reside in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that means, of course, I come from the IT industry, right? But long story short, slowly, once I was let go back in 2009, I always started thinking about investing. And slowly I got into investing mode where I started with, of course, stocks and then, all real estate and slowly alternative assets. And real estate is pretty much, I would say, my bread and butter nowadays. But when I tried to talk to my kids about what I do, we ended up creating this book in a nutshell. Because when they asked me during COVID that I know, my friend's dad does this, this friend's dad does this, what do you do? You are at home, you are just talking on phone. How do you make money? And when I, started teaching them about money, we ended up pretty much creating this book.
Super cool. So first, if you could actually give us the title of the book, we never actually defined that. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Tell
yes.
us the title and then
Yes,
kind of a brief overview of the book.
sure. So it's called, and as you can see it on the video, but if you are reading the transcription, then it's called Growing the Money Tree for Kids. And it's all about, it starts with introducing kids about money and the concepts around money, how, bartering used to work in, old age, right? And then it moves on to how one can start investing. So basically, we targeted this book for kids because my kids were between 8 to 12 years old. But I would say this book is good for any newbie. And of course, I know our alts community members are pretty smart. They already are well ahead of the curve, but this would be good for their, family members and of course for their kids, because we talk about not only stocks and real estate, but we go into details of cryptocurrencies,
You're
collectibles.
teaching the kids alternatives before, they hit
Exactly.
10 years old. That's what we like to see. That's awesome, man. How long did it take you to write this from start to finish? Like from the beginning to the end? And what was that process? How long was that process?
Wow. So we started, I would say, around May 16th of 2020, right when the COVID shutdown happened.
This was a COVID baby.
Yes, as usual, like a lot of people started something, right? And because my kids were at home, this is the first time where they saw me at home. Even though I was working from home for a while, but this was like they were there every day, right? So they kept asking me. So it started during that time. And then when they had to go back to school in 2021, we just couldn't continue because they just have found their friends after a long time. They started hanging out, they started enjoying. So I think we didn't do anything for 2022, but 2023 came and I'm like, I looked at what they had done and it was already around 50 pages, right? So what we were doing is I would explain them about, let's say, about stocks, right? And I'll ask them to write it down in their own words. So we ended up writing 50 pages. And I was like, if you help me finish this book in 2023, then I will make sure that it's published no matter what. Even if it's a bad book, it's a good book, whatever amount of work and money I have to spend, time and money, I'll do it. So it basically took 4 years, but I would say last 12 months were crazy, like rigorous, lot of detail, lot of work, pretty much finalizing the content and, then going through the entire publishing process.
And we'll get into that process in a minute. Just to be clear, so it sounds like your kids kind of wrote half the book for you. Just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Yes, yes, yeah, it's in our genes.
Awesome. Now they're getting a share of the royalties, of course, as
Yes,
well.
they are.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. We'll get into all that later, but let's talk about the actual, the writing process. Like, did you follow a specific routine or schedule? Is it like I need to write, for an hour every day, or is it like just on weekends, or like how did that evolve?
That's a great question. So when we started, it was every day. What we were doing, again, because I wanted to make sure the idea was not at that point about writing a book, but I wanted to make sure they understand the concepts I'm trying to teach them. So we would play a game every day. Let's say we started with Monopoly, right? Then Game of Life, Payday, all those games, and we'll try to play around 30 minutes. And I can see they are liking that game, and then we'll go back and talk about money for 30 minutes. And then the next day, I will try to start from that point, but a lot of time they would have forgotten. So we'll go back and try to review what we had done. So that is how we even put wrote the book, that every chapter had a review section or a quiz or summary. Because I realized that, kids, once they read it, they may forget it, right? So we tried to do it an hour every day, but it was 30 minutes of writing, and a lot of time when they asked questions, actually we went back and erased a lot and rewrote. Because when they ask questions, I'm like, okay, they didn't understand this, and maybe I did not explain it well. So yes, I recommend that everyone, at least, if you really want to write a book, put time aside. And also, what I was doing, I was also reading books for 30 minutes with them, some other books, right? Just to see where they are and play the game. So the idea was not just writing the book, but getting your thought process working, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it was around 30 minutes to an hour.
From the beginning, you knew you wanted to get this published. That's the big part of the journey that I really want to dive into. So first and foremost, how did you decide whether to self-publish or go through a traditional publisher? Take us through your thinking and your research there.
So yeah, so I really wanted to go through traditional publishing or hybrid, but of course I am not a famous author, right? So that means I would have had to hire someone to help me with, reaching out to a lot of publishing companies. And second, that would have taken long time. And I ended up promising my kids that I will publish this book in a year. So when I looked at the timeline, I didn't want them to wait 3, 4 years. So we really were very interested in getting this done, and that's why self-publishing was the way to go.
There was one thing you said earlier I wanted to touch on was, you said if you were going to go through the traditional publisher route, you would have to, you mentioned something about calling someone, finding someone to basically, reach out to publishers and stuff for you.
Yes,
What's that role called? What's that person called? Is that like a
it's
broker or
agent. Yeah,
an
it's
agent?
agent,
Okay.
yeah, publishing agent. Yeah,
And
so
so did
they
you
are there
research
are agent.
agents? Did,
Yeah.
did you like research different agents? Did you like how far down that path did you go?
Yes, I did reach out to some of them, and they said that first, for them to start working, it was going to be significant ask. I'm
Okay.
like, it would take me the same amount of money to publish my book my way. Instead, I'll have to pay them to pitch my ideas to a lot of
Yeah.
publishers. And
Without
of
any
course, here,
guarantee, with no
yeah,
guarantee.
exactly. No
Yeah.
guarantee. Here, rejections from a lot of them. Maybe one publisher will agree and say, okay, I'm going to turn your book upside down and change it all altogether. Right?
Yeah. What do they actually ask for, just roughly in terms of cost? I'd love to get into that side of things as well.
So
Because
yes, yes, they go from 5 grand to, I heard, like 40 grand.
5 to 40,000, and that's just
Yeah,
a
it's like
flat fee that they charge, and again, there's no guarantees in this game, so
no
it's just they'll do
guarantee.
their best. But
Yes.
okay, and so you
And then
figured,
there is something called hybrid publishing, which is in the middle, where the hybrid publishing companies will look at your manuscript, and then they will help you finish the book, right? And then they'll get it published, right? And they also charge pretty much between 10 to 30 grand. So it was pretty significant.
so you can give these hybrid folks a manuscript or a shell of an idea or a very rough draft, and they'll clean it up, they'll finish it, and they'll do the lobby for it as well.
Yes.
Seems like a pretty good situation, but again, you still have that risk, I'm guessing, of Nothing happened.
Yes, exactly. And
Okay.
even then, I was not sure if they will find. So this was something in between. And I thought about, going with them. It's like hiring a contractor. You pay the contractor to oversee the design, construction, plumbing, electricity, etc. And because he has the context and expertise, right, that you or I don't have.
But contractors have guarantees. I mean,
Yes,
you never hire a contractor to redo your bathroom and the bathroom doesn't get done. It's like,
exactly. The only thing you have more control with the hybrid model than traditional is because you own the rights. You
okay,
can control the timing and the product itself. Like with traditional publishing, you don't have the full rights to the book. You don't control the timing, or yeah. So because you are sharing it with everything. With hybrid model, once they are done, they are done. You still own, yeah, rights to your book.
would you get an advance in a hybrid model if it were successful, or does that not come into play?
So I looked into it and then I realized that I can hire the same contractors myself and I can self-publish the book and I control everything from start to finish.
Yeah.
Right? So it allowed me to, because in hybrid model, then you are picking their people, right? Like, that contractor is working with roofer and this and that. In my case, because self-publishing model, I had to interview and pretty much pick and we'll go into over that editor to line editor, proofreader, designer, all that.
Yep.
So it gave me more control and it also allowed my kids to have a say in the book, right? Because they'll say, oh, we don't like this graphics, let's go through and change it, right? So,
Yep.
but I think hybrid model will also work. It's
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, you came to the conclusion of like, look, if I'm going to spend, actually, do you mind sharing how much it costs beginning to end, and not time, but just actual dollars to bring this to life?
sure. We spent around, as of now, on the day when the book was launched, around 15 grand,
Okay.
$300, something like that. So it was
Oh,
not a small amount either. But this was something I really wanted to do for myself, my kids, and I wanted to leave a legacy.
yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. Cool. All right. So you figure, look, if I'm going to spend 15,000, I'll just do it myself, and it'll definitely, get published. Um,
Yes,
it's definitely going to happen.
on time.
Yeah. Yeah,
When
exactly.
I want.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. And you own it, and you own the distribution, everything like that. We'll talk about in a sec. So let's stick to the self-publishing chat for a minute. So how did you decide on like a self-publishing platform? What platform did you use, and how did you kind of arrive at that answer?
Sure. So that's a very good question. And it took me a while because I attended lots of book publishing summit or conferences. I met lots of people, like literally tons of people, and I had interviewed them, right, for different roles. Because now this is my business, basically. This is my baby. And in a hybrid model, they would have chosen all those people, but here I had to. So while doing that, I realized that, okay, these are the type of people I need. And also this is the platform I want to go with. So when I was choosing platform, there are other platforms like BookBaby, Publish, and we'll talk about those. But though when you go through those platforms, they are good. I'm not, but they also then retain certain percent of royalty.
Okay, so
And
do they charge anything upfront?
no. So yeah, they do have upfront charge of,
Oh, they do.
let's say
Okay.
around, it may be cheaper because they already have like an AI process built in, right? Yes, they do have between 800 to pretty much, I would say 6 grand, depending on their services you pick. Like they had a la carte service or the full on book service where, they do everything. But when they help you with that, then, they will publish it for you even though it's self-published, but they will still get some royalty. So
What
I didn't want
what
to
did they
do that.
take on the back end of the
Uh, Between
sales?
1% to I think 7%, if I'm
Okay.
correct.
So that's a
So
pretty
it's not
wide
too bad.
range, but that's actually not doesn't sound too bad to me. Maybe
Yeah,
7
it's not
is
too
getting a little
bad.
high, but okay.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just that when you really want to now, let's say you end up writing second book in the series.
yeah.
Now you have a problem.
Yep.
Now
Yep.
you
Yep.
reach out because you want to own it fully because you have gone through all this, right? And
Yep.
now you have to reach out to them to see now if they will release that book to you fully so you can have your own business, right? And that is my plan with this book, and we can talk about that. But
Yep.
so that's why I didn't go with BookBaby or Publish and others. what I ended up doing is that after attending lots of conferences, I found a mentor.
Oh, cool.
I realized that that is what I needed, like someone who can help me through this process. So we ended up going with Kindle Publishing, KDP, it's called Kindle Direct
Yep.
Publishing,
Yep.
which is
This is
Amazon
Amazon's Kindle, their own publishing.
ebook.
Yes.
Yeah, the ebook model. And then for the hardcover and the paperback, which would be available all over the world through, let's say, Barnes and Noble or bookshop.org. For that, we went through a platform called Ingram Spark.
Okay.
Ingram Spark is very famous. These are the top two platforms. I would say almost every self-publisher uses it, right? So Ingram Spark, but you don't want to use Ingram Spark to publish on KDP because then they take a cut on all your ebook sales. So
Interesting.
see, I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have a mentor.
There's so much to go into here. The mentor, this person, did you find him or her? Is it on a marketplace? Was it just through getting to know people?
It was basically getting to know people because I was reaching out to so many people and giving them of what I want to do. And then they will say, oh, yeah, I think I may not be the right person, but do you want to talk to this person? So I continued that journey and I ended up with April Cox is her name. And I'm happy with what she has done for us. She was very thorough. She knows what she's doing. And she's basically focused on children's book. That's what she does. Children's book helps children's books authors,
Cool.
right? So once I kept going, because I found some people, a really good mentor, but they didn't do anything in children's book area. And I
Got it.
really needed someone who understood what I need to, deliver, right? So yeah,
And
we
this
started working together.
was this a paid engagement as well as part of your budget,
Yes.
or was this
It was paid engagement. She had hourly rate, but she also had some kind of promotion at that time. So I just bought 20 hours because
cool?
I knew I'm gonna need at least that much throughout the process. So we would meet every Friday. I basically about 5 months.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so Kindle Direct on the ebook side and Ingram, what was it? Ingram, sorry?
In Ingram Spark.
Ingram Spark. And Ingram's
Yes.
the big company. And so this is their publishing physical.
Self-publishing division.
Now, do they
Correct.
handle distribution as well? We know Amazon does on the Kindle side. That's we know how that works. And we'll get into that in a sec. But does Ingram handle the distribution as well?
Yes, yes, they do.
Okay.
So anytime, let's say you go to a library and you ask them to order a book, they will usually order through Ingram Spark. You go to a bookstore, they will most probably order it through Ingram Spark. Like Barnes and Noble orders through Ingram, right? So as soon as they order it, Ingram will, ship the, books to them. Of course, print and ship the books to them. So all the physical bookstores, it's Ingram. And Amazon also, by the way, handles the paperback and hardcover if people directly order on Amazon. So when we upload on KDP, I upload all three versions: ebook, paperback, and hardcover.
Okay, cool. So in terms of the editing, so what was the editing process for your book? Did you finish the whole thing and then go back and edit it all? I mean, I know editing is like people don't think it's just kind of like this icing on the cake or cherry on top kind of situation. Like editing is everything. This is what I try to tell people
Editing is
about what we do at
everything.
all. It's like editing is so important, And so like how did you go about it?
I'm glad that you asked this question because you are 100% correct. Editing will make or break your book or buck or whatever. And of course, that was the most time consuming, and that is where I spent most of my money. I
Wow.
would say half of my money,
Did you hire an
basically.
editor?
Yes, so we hired an editor because, of course, we are not authors, right? And of course, as you can tell from my accent, I'm not, born in US. I was migrated here back, in 2000. So yes, ended up hiring a couple of editors. So even I learned the hard way. Editing doesn't mean just editing. There are so many different types of editing. Yes, so there are basically they call it as four different types of editing. One is called manuscript critic, right? Where they assess your manuscript and they give you advice on how to improve the story, characters, etc. And then you have to go back and correct it, right? Then there is something called line edit, where they go through sentences and paragraphs, right? And they focus on language use, tone, style to enhance the
So
writing.
they'll just go in and like you give them carte blanche to just change meaning, change words, change
Yes,
phrasing, just really get in there. And presumably
correct.
that's a lot more expensive.
Yes, yeah, that's why I ended up spending a lot of money. And then there is
So
something called
you did
copy.
employ that option. You did.
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
did. Because I wanted to make sure, because it's for kids. I
Yeah.
have to be so clear that they will understand this, right? And
Yeah.
my kids understood it. That I'm not saying they're smart, but because I was helping them, right? Continuously, I was going through the same motion. So, it may not be the same for others. Maybe their parents also haven't invested in anything other than stocks. So for them, it may be hard, right? So
Yeah.
then there was, yeah, so I did and go through the manuscript critic as
Yeah.
well as the line edit. And then there is something called copy editing. So that is where editor will look at the manuscript and make sure that our grammar,
Okay.
punctuation, spelling,
Just a
and
giant final check on
consistency.
everything. Make sure
Yeah.
nothing's misspelled. Simple. Yeah.
And
That's a
and
no-brainer.
on
Everyone has to do that before you publish.
copy edit is
Yeah.
must
Yeah. Yeah.
because they also check factual accuracy. Because you don't want to just have, because I mentioned bank somewhere and this lady said, oh yeah, yeah, let me look it up. And she added, like a anecdote that, okay, this is what, Alpesh is referring to. So it was good to have that factual accuracy in the book.
So editing as a whole took the bulk of your
Yes.
what percentage of cost would you say editing was?
I would say about 45%.
Okay, so basically 6, 7 grand that area.
70, yeah, 7 grand,
Yep.
yes.
Cool. Interesting.
And
Okay.
then the last is proofreading, right? As we all know. So I also had a proofreader because, that proofreader will catch the errors in spelling, grammar, formatting,
I
text is
figured your kids would be
error-free.
the proofreader, man. What?
Yeah, they did it as well, but I wanted to make sure that someone else other than our set of eyes
Yeah.
look at something, right? And make sure.
Okay, cool. So let's say now editing's done and it's all formatted. And again, we know I don't want to bore the audience, but that is just such a big pain in the butt that hopefully they help with as well. Did they help with
Oh,
that?
no. So you have to hire a company, formatting company. And if you search book formatting businesses, there are tons of them out there. It will cost you around 800 to 1,000 bucks for a book about 150 pages because they look at number of pages and give you a quote. Most of the time, that is the price range I saw. But I, after editing, I think that is most important if you don't worry about anything else because your book has to look right, right? When someone sees your book, they are not going to read the book right away. If someone is going to buy the book, they just look at the cover, they look at how it looks, and they move on, right?
Yeah, like let's talk about the design of your book and the interior layout. Like the formatting we kind of talked about, but just did you hire a designer to design the cover and then interior pictures and images and that sort of thing?
Yes, yes. So they are called illustrators in the book world. So they illustrate your book for you, right?
Even if it's
So,
not an illustration, even if it's
right.
right. Okay, yeah.
Correct. So we hired a company and it's an animation company and they do this. So they work with my mentor all the time. And actually I loved working with this company as well. I thoroughly enjoyed because they pretty much depicted what we really want. Because funny, when we were going through this book, I was always asking because my kids are not, I would say artistic, but they love art, right? So I will ask them to draw a picture showing something which will help them understand, right? So we gave those pictures or the graphics to this illustration company and they turned them around into really nice looking kids and whatnot, our characters. And the cover you see here as well came from them, right? So I basically what I did to figure out the illustration company I want to work with, my mentor told me because I was just going to go with one company, but she told me that she will connect me with a couple of people. I can reach out to a couple other people who are not working for her and basically ask them to design the book in my words, right? If they
Cool.
understand what I'm looking for, then that's the company I should go with. So basically, I spent money on four different graphics designer or this illustration companies, and they gave me lots of different options of cover. And I went with the company which understood my idea. right?
That's
Which
cool.
I really
You
wanted to
could basically
convey.
tell them, just kind of explain what you're looking for,
Yes,
and they'll synthesize that into a design theme and just a whole kind of the whole package basically.
exactly.
How much did that cost total?
So usually they charge by number of illustrations in the book, right? So we ended up having around 30 images plus the cover. So yeah, the cover designing cost is between, again, online also, it's pretty similar, between 200 to 500 bucks, right? Just the cover. And then the interior illustrations are, because we didn't have color illustrations because this is a black and white book. It was around, I would say, 80 to 100 bucks per illustration. But
Okay.
if you wanted color, then that would be extra.
All right, the book is now in the hands of Ingram. It's in the hands of Amazon. Anything noteworthy about that process, or pretty straightforward?
No, I wish it was. So, man, it sucks. This process is so difficult. And now you are ready to publish and you are at the mercy of Ingram and KDP. So like I uploaded my paperback and hardcover. Ingram goes ahead and approves my hardcover in a week, right? And it's exact same paperback and they took 4 weeks to approve it.
So it's
So
not like you didn't feel like you were a valued customer.
yeah, but I'm like, how does it work where the same thing got approved in a week, but the other? So we actually had to push our launch by a week actually, because
Okay.
it was so messed up. And then it's funny, and you wouldn't. I still don't understand how that works, but in US or the markets where Amazon operates by itself as an entity, when someone goes on Amazon and orders your book, ebook or paperback or hardcover, Amazon will print it for you and send it to them, right?
Yep.
But the markets where Amazon is not an entity, full entity, and they operate it, like, let's say, just I'm gonna take an example of India, right? And if someone wants to order your paperback or a hardcover book, if the Ingram process is not finished, they cannot order because Amazon is not allowed to print your book.
Got it.
So
Wow.
I never understood that concept that Ingram
So
is the
the
one
rules
putting
are
the book on
different.
Amazon.
Did
So
you?
India launch took a month
Wow.
extra.
Okay. Okay, so that's not a straightforward process at all. You had no idea clearly going in.
Yes, and
um,
then KDP was weird because we wanted to have a pre-launch price, which was different than the launch price because I wanted, people who wanted to support me upfront. I said, okay, they can buy it, right? Let's say we kept the ebook for 99 cents instead of 8.99 during the pre-launch period, which was 2 weeks.
yep.
But as soon as I changed the price, Amazon did not like it. So
Well,
they sent
you
it
made it
to
higher.
no, lower.
You made it
Even
lower
that
and they didn't
was
like it?
weird. So
Oh,
they sent it to additional review, and we had to again push our pre-launch out by 8 days because Amazon would not let anyone pre-order it.
wow. Okay, that's interesting. Let's talk pricing for a moment. You keep referencing the launch. I would love to learn about, how you really thought about the launch and the pricing and the packaging.
Sure. So again, I worked with my mentor. She had a lot of idea because she had worked with a lot of the, children's book authors, right? So she was, when we went through the book and when she read it, she's like, man, this book is so good. You can't just price it low because then people will not value it. And
So
you
she
can,
recommended you price it higher.
yes.
Now, did you was pricing strategy part of what you knew you were getting, or did she just kind of see the content and think, hey, look, we should go higher?
Yes, and actually when we started, we were even going to be higher than that, right? But then when I look at the other book, I was like, okay, am I too high? Let me reduce it. And then we went back and forth. So our pricing was going to be between 7.99 to 9.99 anyhow.
For the
And we
ebook
ended up with,
or for the physical?
yes, with ebook, with
Okay, because
ebook.
that now, so just for the audience, so that's fairly high, right? Like that's
Yes,
because usually ebooks are like a dollar to like $3 or so, I believe.
right, right.
Okay, so this is premium. This is 7.99, and then what was the price that you ended up on the physical version of the book?
Sure. So paperback is 13.99
Okay.
and the hardcover is 19.99.
Okay.
And we looked at other children's books, and I don't know if I mentioned, I'm an avid reader myself, and my kids love reading. So I have, huge library at my home, like you do have in your
Yeah, this
background.
is clearly a real background.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. That's what so we have a lot of books, and I looked at their books as well, and it made sense. I'm like, yeah, if they are asking for this fictional book, which is, a good book, but is not teaching anything, and which may not help leave a legacy, even if kids can pick one thing out of this book, maybe it's stocks, maybe it's collectible, something, it would, be with them forever, right? So after looking at all that, and of course looking at our budget as well, it made sense to go with this pricing model.
Tell me about the margins on the different types, right? So presumably ebooks just have obviously like close to 100% margins, except for Amazon's rake. Uh,
So I mean, no, it's 70%. So it's not
70,
close
they
to
take
100%. Yeah,
30%.
they take
Okay.
30% for
Off the
distributing.
ebooks. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. How does those margins compare to softcover and hardcover?
So I think very similar. So they have, like, for softcover and hardcover, the pricing is by number of pages, right? Because that is the cost to produce the book. So let's say paperback cost is around $5 and hardcover is around 739, something like that. So that's the lowest you can sell the book at, right?
Right.
Because otherwise it will cost them or cost you to even sell the book,
Yep.
right? That's one thing. And after that, it's I think 65-35 split, right? So that is your bare minimum, and then whatever is, the money is made, it's 65% goes to you.
Okay. Okay. So doing the numbers, all else being equal, would you prefer to sell mostly hardcover or most softcover or mostly, ebooks?
So from money wise, yes, I would prefer to sell ebook,
Yeah.
but to leave legacy and to make sure kids learn something out of it, I recommend people buy hardcover,
Yep.
because it's a totally different experience, and I have
It
all of
is.
them, right? And I look at it and I'm like, this looks so good. This is so
Yeah.
enjoyable. And they
Yeah.
stay away from the screen.
I have to say, I agree. I don't particularly like reading on Kindle. I'm kind of a hipster when it comes to that stuff. I have a big record collection, and so I do have a lot of books. Not quite as many as this fake background would indicate, but I agree. I like physical books more, generally speaking. I also find I don't go back to Kindle books ever, whereas like I'll definitely thumb through an old
That's the
book.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't go back. That is what I learned, that I would take notes on Kindle, and then I'm like, okay, where do I find it? Why do I want to go back? And
Yep.
then I get distracted. Instead, if
Yep.
I have physical book, I know I have marked it and I'll go back.
It
And for
makes a better
kids, I
gift
really want.
too. I mean, if you think about like what would you rather receive, as a present, like an audiobook, a Kindle version,
Yes,
or an audiobook for that matter. Actually, we should talk about audiobooks in a minute, but or would you rather get,
yes.
a physical copy? Like that just means so much more. That's such a better present. Let's talk about audio real quick. So I know they do have the audio option. Tell us about the players involved, how to make an audiobook come to life. Do you have an audio version or no?
I don't, but it's a good question because we are looking into it right now.
Okay.
So that is the next portion for this book, is the having the audiobook, and the platform is called ACX. ACX. It's a audio connections exchange, I think it's called. And pretty much Amazon has it. It's pretty simple, and you can also do it for other platforms if you need to. But of course, Amazon is the player, big player, and that is where you want to be, because
Did they
Amazon
buy
ties into Audible.
Did they buy them, or do you know, or is it just
It's Audible, right? It's Audible is what Amazon has bought, and pretty much that is what most of us use, right?
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we are looking into it actually, and our plan is, my mentor suggested that my daughters read the book instead of hiring someone, because they said that it will look even more genuine.
Okay, cool. So we talked about pricing, we talked about packaging. Let's talk about promotion. Like what marketing strategies did you use to promote your book?
One, of course, I hired a website designer, so that costed me another $1,000. And we have a website. It's called moneytreebooks.com, where we post all these podcast interviews I go on, where we are going to have lots of other videos where I go through things which I have explained in the book. We are blogging on that website, and you can also buy book on that website, where you can get signed copy of the book, right? So we pretty much developed that website. So that was one of our plan. And then we also have social media YouTube to Instagram, Facebook page, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And the third was we started reaching out to a lot of podcast hosts, so that I can be on their podcasts channels. We also reached out to lots of review companies, book review companies,
Mm.
and asked them to provide us a review. And of course, they charge for it. It's not free, but we wanted an independent, neutral review from a famous book review company. And believe it or not, we got 2 5-star reviews from those companies. So that was pretty satisfactory moment, right? When you have wrote something and you
Yeah.
realize that someone else thinks it's worthy, right? Not
Yeah.
only just people or someone who has bought the book, but someone third party.
Well, the area I'm really interested in is physical bookshelves. Like, what's the angle to working, like, to getting it into physical stores without the backing of a major distributor?
That's a very good question as well. And I basically worked with my again mentor, and the idea was to figure out the target audience, right? And also figure out and basically go and let's say meet Barnes and Noble folks, right, at your local store and have a like book signing event. So I have so far done only one, but that is one way where they will order the book. I have only done it at a local bookshop here, but you can basically reach out to all those bookstores, and or you can have a friend or someone who is interested. They can call the bookstore to carry your book, right? I think that's another
It's just
angle.
old school hustle, you're saying. I mean, it's just
Yes, it
like
is.
you call them up, you tell them who you are, and who are you usually talking with? The owner or like a buyer or
Manager at the store most of the time, or sometimes if it's a small bookshop, then owner, right?
yep.
By the way, half price book also allows you to have a book signing event. So I'm planning to do that. So you can go to, half price books, Barnes and Noble, local library as well. A lot of time local libraries will have book signing events, or at least, talk or presentation about your book. So then those people may go back to your, Barnes and Noble and say, "Do you carry this book?" They're like, "No, we don't. Let me look it up. Is it available on Ingram?" And they'll say it on Ingram, so they can order it now.
So I think, in terms of like, this is a book about investing, right? And you're a professional investor as well. I mean, what did you put together like a plan? Do you have like sales targets you want to hit? Do you have ROI kind of figured out? Like, where are you in that, like, let's make money off this investment part of the journey?
That's a very, very important question for me because, of course, I want to create a business out of it. Not that I'm really passionate about this. So while I went through the process, I realized that, I want to do more than this. I want to give back. Of course, I want to make money. I really want to have a business, but that business will not work if I don't have passion about it, right? So yes, I did not have plan when I started, by the way, right? But the more I went through this journey, I realized, okay, this I want to do, this I want. So yes, now I do have plans. As I mentioned, audiobook is coming. The second I want to do is video book because kids enjoy videos. So I want to convert this book in a video format where the characters are talking
That's cool.
and going through everything. And there are chapters, and kids can save those chapters. They can take notes, all those, and they are in the like Teachable or Coursera or whatnot, right?
Interesting.
So that's like a course. And on top of that, I want to create a course where it takes them from A to Z, like, because a lot of this is pretty much in fictional terms, because we use fictional characters, but I want to show them, let's say, they can say, "Oh, stocks, I want to read everything about stocks." After reading the book, then I will, take them through the process of, buying a stock, where all you can buy, where all your parents can help, right? Of course. So that is another angle I have. And so video book and courses, as well as we may end up doing some presentations or courses for the parents, right? I think it's important for them to know how they can, teach their kids. And the last thing, or not the last thing, actually, it would be the second thing I want to do after the audiobook is that this book actually is a game. So we built it as a game. There is a game in the book called Growing the Money Tree game.
That's
So we
cool.
want to come out with that game. That would be a physical board game as well as an app which kids can play with
I
each
like
other.
I like that a lot. I have to tell you, man, I like one of my like secret life goal dreams is to actually create like a board game someday.
Oh
Like,
man, you and I need to work
no,
on
I'm
this
such a board
together.
game dork. I swear to God,
Me
like
too.
I
Yeah.
love them. We should talk about this later. But yeah, no, like I've like gone fairly far down that path. And again, I'm hitting some walls where I'm like, all right, hang on, like let's take a step back. But I like how you're really just thinking through all this stuff and understanding that this is part of a larger picture, right? Like
Yes.
it's not just one book, it's about a whole
It's not
narrative that
one
you're
book and
creating.
done.
All right, so this is great. We got to wrap this up, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
end with a couple questions, like in terms of like what is the single best part of this journey for you, and what was the most difficult part, and then what was the most like surprising part? So what was the best, what was the toughest, and then what was the most surprising?
So the best part was working with my kids, man. I think we all do this for family some way or other way, right? It's so that gave me so much pleasure that they wanted to learn, right? Not that I was pushing them to learn.
What would you say is the toughest part or the most frustrating
Best
part?
part is hearing from an editor that this is what it will cost to edit the book. I'm like, what? My budget was 5 grand and you are asking me for 7 grand.
What would you say is the most surprising thing? Just not necessarily good or bad, just what shocked you the most about bringing this to life?
Most surprising was the amount of hoops I had to jump through and figure out what all is needed. Because I thought, because these people, book baby, publish everywhere, they just saying, oh, there's a book in a box. You just come to us and everything is done. But I didn't realize that even if they say everything is done, you are still involved. It's your baby,
Yep.
right? So if I had to do it on my own, I'm like, oh, I needed editor, I needed proofreader, I needed copy editor, then the graphics designer, formatting person, website, social media expert, all that just kept adding up, and not from just money wise but from managing, right? Because I had to manage them. I had to I need to buy the domain on this thing, now I need to pay to hosting provider, I need to do mailer lights that. So it was just a lot of things. It was just surprising. I didn't think that publishing a book will require me to build a business, but that's what it is.
So total costs 15,000, total time. How would you what would you say? And that's a big one.
you know
It's tough.
it was a lot. So I would the earlier, I think we may have spent an hour every day, and I don't think I'll consider that as the time spent in writing book because I was personally enjoying it with my kids.
Sure.
But I would say the last 18 months were a lot of hands down, right? So I think I spent like 20 hours a week for last 12 months just on the book.
What's the final piece of advice you'd give to people who want to do the same? And there are plenty, there are so many people.
Yes, I would say get started. The biggest problem all of us have is that we don't pull the trigger,
Yep.
right? Get started. Maybe you get started and maybe you give up after a month. You may not like it, but I guarantee you will learn something out of it.
So the book is called Growing the Money Tree. Go buy it for your kids. Alpesh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me, man. I had so much fun.
Awesome. Good luck, man. Thank you.